Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Mitch Simpkins, and this is Wins for Widows, where you get practical advice from the mouths of professionals who all of us together are united to help you get your feet back on the ground after experiencing the loss of a loved one. Together, we'll uncover the rooted question that you might be asking yourself, what now? And what should I do next? Today, I am excited to introduce to you and host Holly St. Pierre. This podcast is going to be super cool and very unique from the other ones that we've done, Holly. She is a licensed professional clinical counselor, author, and speaker, and the owner and the clinical director of HRS Counseling Service, which is a multi-site practice in Ohio, a couple different cities there. She's a certified brain spotting consultant and founder of the Buckeye Brain Spotting Network of Ohio, and she trains and mentors clinicians in neuroinformed, trauma-focused care. Through your
Absolutely.
counseling, consulting, and teaching, she helps individuals, couples, and families move from struggle to healing while equipping therapists and communities with practical tools for deep, lasting change. So welcome, Holly.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Nice to have you. Thank you for being brain spotting. What is that?
Yeah, brain spotting is just fantastic. So it's just kind of the next level of therapy. So when we go to counseling on a typical day, we're going to do a lot of talking things over, working on skills and things like that. And then when you come to a brain spotting therapist, we just take it to another level. So if you think about the brain, the front part of the brain, like if we have our brain and like this is our brain, this front part of our brain here, as a model, of course, like, so this is where we have all of our executive functioning,
Right up here, right?
right up
This
here.
little
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah. And so when we go to talk therapy, we're utilizing that a lot,
Mm,
right? We're learning skills. So our body can hold on to trauma and it can get stuck. And so when we want to use a somatic experience type of therapy to work from the bottom of our brain, right? And so in our midbrain, we're holding, all those memories, emotions, feelings,
mm,
all that kind
mm,
of trauma stuff. I'm not
mm.
going to get totally technical, right? But like that's just the
No,
overall part of it.
no, it's kind of where it
And
lives.
so when we do brain spotting, we're able to get in there, reorganize files, and heal some of that stuff that's stuck inside our bodies. I mean,
Very
that's,
cool. Very cool.
yeah, it's very exciting.
You're just moving our thoughts around to a
Hmm.
place where they're more cognizant and we're able to really
Yeah.
do something with them. Is that the
Yeah.
idea?
Yeah, kinda, pretty much. So, like, if we have someone who's struggling with, like, a PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and they're having all these types of kind of bottom line, what's happening is they keep re-experiencing their trauma, and their body doesn't realize that we're not actually in that trauma anymore. And so we're experiencing life and hypervigilance and all those types of things, and just keeping it really, like, plain and simple. We're just helping the body and the brain with an attunement with the therapist that wants to help move them forward through their journey to get unstuck. And so that our body learns that we're not actually in that trauma right now anymore. It's a past thing.
Yeah.
And then we can do all sorts of things once we can get past
Move
that
on.
stuckness in
Yeah.
our body.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. So, Holly, obviously, the loss of a loved one is traumatic. And depending on, especially in various situations, and the many that I've worked with, some are, immediate and just happen, and others are over time. But in general, all of them are traumatic. So I'm hoping today that those who are watching are just saying, look, like I'm not the only one dealing with this. And that's what's really happening. And that they can really kind of come to some grips with that fact. If the listeners leave with nothing else, but you're not alone and you're not the only one,
Mhm.
to me, we'll have accomplished something. But we're going to do a lot more than that because you've got some really cool stuff. So let's talk a second about
Sure.
that, the brain and trauma, and how come that explains why sometimes widows, especially if it's recent, really struggle with financial decisions, right? Why is that so
Right.
hard to bring those financial pieces together when you're dealing with trauma?
Yeah. So, if we kind of look at what trauma is, and it's the way our body perceives what's happened, and the way we perceive it is through our own lens. And I like to say, like, if you put on red sunglasses or you put on blue sunglasses, it's the way we see an event, right? So, I give the example of like a 3-year-old's walking down the street, and mom's kind of tagging along in the back, and the dog runs up, but there isn't anybody, like, mom doesn't lean down and go, "Oh, look at that sweet dog. That dog just wants to give you a kiss." The narrative that child could be telling themselves is that dog's gonna eat my face, right? And so being able to recognize that the way we respond to whatever the event is, whether it's death or a car accident or getting an F for the first time, like, right, like it's a perceived trauma. It's a trauma to that person. And so, one, we shouldn't be saying, oh, well, you knew your spouse was going to die. That shouldn't be traumatic. Everybody dies. Like, so we start putting clarifiers on people's experiences, and that doesn't do anyone any
Doesn't help
service,
them any
right?
good at all.
Right,
Yeah.
that doesn't help. So what we perceive individually as a trauma may not be a trauma for the other person, and it may be, right? So
Mm,
I
mm,
think everybody experiences trauma differently, as
mm.
in grief.
Yeah.
So your question goes back to like, why is it hard to make decisions?
Yeah.
Well, because using
Yeah.
that front part of our brain, the frontal lobe, it's kind of offline. So if we're going through, we have like a stair step between the emotions, the trauma, where the amygdala, our alarm system is trying to keep us safe all the time,
Mm,
and our cognitive ability of answering those questions. There's like a
mm,
stair step that's broken there. And
mm,
so
mm,
it's hard to make decisions. They're not linked.
mm. 'Cause
We're
all the
not able to
finance
produce
stuff is
that,
happening should be happening here, right?
right?
Is that
Your
what you're saying?
decisions.
This is all the
Yes.
here, and
Yep.
then the trauma lives somewhere else, and
Mhm.
you're just saying they don't know how to talk to each other?
Right, right. They're not talking to each other. It's a great way to put it. They're not talking to
Interesting.
each other. So
Okay.
we have to look at, our autonomic nervous system and how we are responding to the threat that's coming in, and whether it's a physical threat or if it's an emotional threat or if it's just a fear. We don't know what's happening. We kinda pull back, disassociate, and it's hard to make decisions.
Mm, mm.
It's like the kid that walks down the hallway and they get bumped by somebody and they turn and swing, and they're asked, "Why did you do that?" And they're like, "I have no idea." Well, their physical response was safety, but they don't have a cognitive ability to tell them why they did it,
Mm,
and what
mm.
could possibly be happening is the trauma that happened at home with mom and dad or a sibling or something earlier is impacting the way that they're experiencing their world right now.
Interesting,
So the
interesting. So
trauma of losing somebody, yeah.
does that make
Go ahead, sorry.
finances, like, so distant, and you're like, that's why it's so far away because it's the fear that they're dealing with and the effects of the loss just don't
Mhm.
allow them to go there, or are they afraid to go there?
It could be both.
Could
It
be
could be
both.
both. How
Yeah.
many people come into your office and say, "I don't remember the funeral. I don't remember planning the funeral."
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, because that's kinda offline, we're kinda disassociated, we're in survival mode of what I have to do to get done.
Interesting. You're
So
just
when we start
literally
talking
going
about
through the
right,
motions without any of that.
right. And
Interesting.
knowing that everybody experiences some sort of survival mode through all this, no matter what the level of impact this death has impacted this widow with, um, the knowing that, like, your thing, I wanna make sure no one knows that they're alone in it, like, you're not alone because this is every one of us. We all have this mechanism of fight, flight, survival, all of that, right? How do we get through this moment?
Interesting, and when that's happening so hard, it forces us to not be in the present, to not be cognizant of especially analytical or more technical things, right? Like
Yes.
finances,
Yes,
that is very,
absolutely.
very technical.
Yeah.
Interesting. So does that explain widow fog? That word is out all the time. It's very real. I've seen it. I've heard it. Most of the widows I work with say, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just living in this fog." Is that
Yes,
widow fog, or is
yeah,
widow fog
yeah.
different?
It's a great question. Like, from a clinical standpoint, I would say that that kinda goes that correlates. I mean, I
Mm,
would say that that
mm,
makes sense,
mhm.
that they're living in a fog, and my term, they're living in survival mode,
Interesting.
right? And so when you're in survival mode, you're gonna fight, you're gonna run, you're gonna collapse,
Mhm.
like, and you could even fawn. So you could possibly have some widows who are going to do everything they're supposed to do without even thinking. Like they're gonna be right there, people pleasing because that's their survival mode. So
Interesting,
yeah,
interesting. And
yeah.
it is true, like, there's such a variety of reactions to this,
Mhm.
and I see everything from just the complete shutdown to women who, after 3, 4 months, are moving forward pretty quickly, and so there really is no magic, bullet, no magic solution, and there's not one way to deal with it. It's, very, very individual for each. So what do they do, Holly? Like, with that, how do widows deal with that trauma so that then that fight, flight, or the secure safety piece isn't such a primary piece to their lives? What do you do? You brain spot 'em? You
That's a
go
million
in with
dollar
your little
question,
brain
isn't it?
spotter and say, "Okay, we're moving this from here to here." That's it. I like that. That's
That's a
really
million-dollar question.
that's the easy part.
That yeah, that's right. Now, honestly, like, here's the thing, like, how are you able to co-regulate with another human being? Because every person wants to be seen and heard,
Mm,
right? And
mm,
recognized. So, yes, I would say brain spotting is a phenomenal and no matter what you're experiencing in life, brain spotting can impact your journey through therapy with that. That's like my 101, right? But
yeah, yeah,
in the moment of feeling that fog and disassociating and not knowing what to do, having the support of somebody who's calm and regulated, somebody that comes in and barking orders or telling people that they have to do something that's just going to cause more panic. And the person who's not able to handle those emotions right now. Having a good support system, utilizing what your self care is, what's important to you,
mm, mm,
taking a big deep breath, doing a lot of regulation. And we regulate to someone else. Even in parenting, I'm teaching parents, if you're flipping out, your kids are going to flip out. So in this same thing, if the kids or the sister or the brother, whoever is there as support is flipping out, that's not going to help the widow, right?
mm, mm,
Calm, patient people around them to help them get grounded
mm.
and doing things slow, right? And I don't mean like dragging things out, but let's not make harsh decisions right away.
Yeah.
Sit on your decisions, work with you for a while, give it a couple of days, and then come back and make the final decision,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep. That's one thing that I've recognized is small, short, very, very succinct conversations. Because yeah, I typically see the attention and the attention to detail and the number of minutes and hours that they really want to spend in this is not very long, especially initially, and especially if the trauma was very, very much and the death was sudden or really traumatic. Kind of seeing the difference between.
Yeah, I think surrounding yourself with the loved ones who know you and respect you and allow you to heal in your time means granted some things have to be done right away, but how do you support the widow when they have to make a decision quickly, right? Like, but if it doesn't have to be quick, let's not push. Let's
Yep. Yep.
let's let them be able to move through some of this
Yeah, and
on
one
their
of the
own.
one of the principles I've taught, it's not mine, I can't take it. I have to give credit to Kathleen Real who did this, who knows widows,
Yeah.
very well. She's experienced it. She uses now, soon, and later. What do you gotta do now? Let's just get it done.
Mhm.
What do you need to do soon? And then what can wait till later? Kinda
Mhm.
supports your comments about, yeah,
Yeah.
just taking the
That's
capacity you have and
that's fantastic. That's fantastic. And then what I would say is you develop that list and then you let that list sit for a couple days and then you come back to the list and reevaluate.
Mm, it's great. No, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. So grief is also very isn't linear either, right? It's not like
Right.
you go through this process, you're like, okay, I'm really feeling bad, boom, and you're up and you never return. It's like an ocean goes back and forth. So how can
Mhm.
widows really recognize and navigate those unpredictable emotion tsunamis that come, even sometimes years after the loss? How can they navigate through
Yeah,
that? What do you
yeah.
recommend?
Grace, compassion for yourself and for others. So everyone is gonna grieve their own personal way. I think that's important is like our stages of grief that are put out there, like anger, acceptance, moving through those, that's for the person who is accepting the fact that they're going to die. There's a misnomer in our society that we as the ones that are left after our loved one dies, we have to go through those stages. And that's just like in my training that's just not what it is. And so what we do in therapy is that we're like it can hit like a tsunami or it can be a trickle like a little wave that comes in just tiny at your toes, right? Like it can be the smell of cookies and all of a
Mm,
sudden you take a big deep breath right? Or it could be the smell of cologne and all of a sudden you're sobbing, right? So, like, it's gonna impact each person differently according to their experience in life and how resilient they are and they've become. And first of all, I hate that word resilient because it means that there has to be pain to be resilient. But being able to have grace and acceptance of it's gonna come and go, and no matter how I'm grieving is how I'm supposed to grieve.
Mm, mm,
The key component, I think, coming from a clinical standpoint is you grieve and you stay in it as long as you need to stay in it, but there has to be a time where you get up,
mm,
right? And so, like, you have to figure out when's your get up time,
mm,
right? So
mm,
it's not that you forget, it's not that you disassociate, but it's okay to sit in sadness. It's okay to sit in anger. It's okay to sit in it, but the success is that you get up and do something else and move on. And then you may sit back down again later,
mm,
but then you get up and
mm,
you move on.
mm.
The more we stay in daily life is the better we grieve.
Interesting. Interesting. The more you're involved in things that have to be done and moving on as much as you can, as hard as it is. Interesting.
Right, right, but who am I to say what that timeline is, right? Like, I mean, we have a clinical diagnosis of what complicated grief looks like, and I may or may not agree with that depending upon the circumstances and who's living it, right? Like, so there you go. So, I think the fact is, like, if you can commit to keep going, you can live in grief and appreciate, reminisce, love,
Mm. Live
all
with it.
that.
I've heard
Live with
others
it.
say
Yeah.
you don't get rid of
Yeah.
it, you just learn how to live with it. You learn how
Yeah,
to
and
bring it
some
with
days
you or
harder and some days easier, and
make it a companion and work around it, work with it.
yeah,
I
yeah,
visited a man last
yeah,
night who lost his spouse not long ago and still is just crushing to him as if it happened yesterday.
yeah,
It's still very,
yeah,
very real to him, but he's also choosing to move, to go things.
yeah.
He's going on a trip with his kids. He's luckily he has kids that are really supportive. Going to New Zealand this Saturday, so
Well, that's wonderful.
that's perfect for
So
him to do
so
that,
see,
but
that kinda leads into my next thought that I had while we were talking. Is like, okay, so how do you move on
yeah.
to celebrate, right? Like, one of the keys to grief is knowing that you can hold opposing emotions at the same time. You can hold opposing memories at the same time. You can love and hate. You can be
Hmm,
sad and joyful.
hmm,
And so when someone who's going through grief can recognize that they are so angry that they lost their loved one, but they are celebrating that they had 30 years or that they had them for 2 years, or they're celebrating the fact that they got to go on all these vacations, but they're angry as hell that they don't get to go on anymore.
interesting,
And it's okay to have both.
interesting.
It doesn't
You
have to
can
be one
live
or the
in both
other.
of them. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
That's an interesting concept, yeah, 'cause I think we're always just in one state or another, but
Mhm.
it can,
Yeah.
we can are you saying we can multitask? Let's face it, Holly, women are better, way better at multitasking than us dudes, right? And we have a bad
I think
reputation for being
that's
very
kinda ironic that
silo.
you asked the question.
I know, it's funny that I would ask you that about women and multitasking, so
I don't know if it's multitasking. That's not clinical, but
okay, alright, alright.
I will say that it's very healthy to have opposing emotions at the same time.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's really
okay.
cool.
Yeah.
That's a really cool concept. I love that. I love that. What about for couples who are still together, but one might be passing soon, right? There's a lot of reasons why they don't act or prepare. And
Mhm.
if there's any one mantra that I try to say is don't wait. Like don't wait to be in the throes of grief, dealing with the struggles of finances. Do it before. But it doesn't always happen, right? Why?
Yeah.
Why? And what do you recommend? What can you say to people to encourage them like don't wait? What's going on there and why do we wait and how do we avoid that?
Another good question. So I think that if we look at human nature, what drives us, right? What gets us stuck? Like what would you guess like as an emotion that would like either drive or
That
get us stuck?
drives me well, I mean, fear certainly
Yeah,
drives
yeah. So
me.
we so right.
I
So
hate it,
fear
but it's a
right
driver. When I'm scared
right,
of
but
something, I'm moving better.
right. That fear can also be a healthy fear. The
Mm,
fear of our kids not walking out into the road, right? The
mm,
fear of
mm,
I have to make the paycheck. I have to work hard,
mm,
right? So we can have a healthy fear of trying to stay safe and that sort of thing. So if fear is a driving factor of some of our decisions. It would lend us to believe that we just don't wanna talk about this because we're scared of what's gonna happen, the fear of it happening. Am I gonna bring it on if I talk about it? I mean, we've got that kind of misnomer going out there,
Mm,
right? Like, if I just don't talk about this and we're just not gonna go there, it won't happen if we don't acknowledge it, right?
mm,
I'm not
mm,
saying that's our typical response, but those are some ideas. I would say that the dynamics of the partnership. What have the dynamics been most of the time? Do you do bills together? Do you know where everything is? Or does one person have a lead on doing all the bills and the other one's like, let me know how much I can spend? And there's middle ground and all sorts of things like that.
yep,
Um,
yep,
I think the driving factor is fear.
mm, mm,
And that's total assumption on my part, right? But in
mm,
my clinical experience, it makes it more real.
mm.
You know your partner's gonna pass, which
Interesting.
in reality, all of our partners are gonna pass,
Yeah,
right? But if you know that it's coming and you've got the diagnosis and why do you wanna talk about finances?
yeah,
That's this is happening, like, why do we have to talk about finances? I'm like,
yeah.
have you ever had somebody come back to be like, "Why do we have to do this right now? We've got this much time left. I don't wanna talk about finances. This is ridiculous. We'll get to this when we get to it," right?
Mm.
But
So is there a little bit of a
being
denial as well?
Yes, very good. Yeah, a denial. There's a denial component to that. Like, why do I have to do this right now? Right? Those in your audience who are listening, like, but doing this alone may be even harder. So if you do it now, it may be hard, but you have the support of the other person to walk you through it, and you're not going to do it alone.
Yeah. Yeah, and believe me, it is because 'cause I've seen people try to do it alone, and when the other spouse isn't there to just do a signature or to answer a question, and that knowledge is gone, it definitely makes it more difficult. But yeah, fear and maybe talking about it makes it happen sooner
I don't think
or
sooner. I just think maybe it's more real.
more real, and they don't wanna we don't wanna go to real yet. We don't want to talk about
Yeah,
that yet.
maybe not. Yeah,
Which makes
yeah,
absolute and total sense to me. Who wants to talk about that? But I love what you said, that it's easier to talk about it together, and a lot of times, and then, at least in my experience, acknowledging, accepting, and labeling it for what it is sometimes makes it a whole bunch easier,
absolutely.
right?
This is
And
gonna
getting it
suck a
out and being
little.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
"I'm super scared, I don't wanna talk about this." "Well, I know, but
Mhm.
we've got," So,
Yeah.
interesting. No, I love that perspective. One last question here for you around family dynamics, right? Unfortunately, sometimes widows get stuck in messy family situations after the loss of their loved one, and kids wanna kinda get involved, and they obviously, the widow doesn't wanna let that control go, but they also want and should potentially get maybe input from their kids as well, or loved ones or people around them. And there's this story that I'm telling myself. It's a Brené Brown quote that you gave me. So
Yes.
talk about that, and talk about that in relation to messy family relationships and kids who may be nipping at your toes after a loss of your loved one.
Well, this is an onion layer type of conversation, right? Like, there's so many layers to it, and usually there's so many emotions that there's tears and crying and the conversations stink. And like, I call that kind of an onion layer type of interaction. Everyone's world has just been rocked, not just the widow, but you've got family too. And the family wants to come in and help. And depending upon how everybody grieves, some people need to do stuff, some people need to hide. Some people need to take charge. What we talked about before is that story that I'm telling myself. Brene Brown's fantastic with some of the things that she really teaches us. And I use that statement all the time in counseling is what you are perceiving in your narrative and your lens, others don't know. So we have to communicate. We can't expect everyone to know what we have inside and the way that we are reading the situation.
Mm, mm,
So the story that I'm telling myself is that my kids just want my money.
mm,
The
mm.
kids are saying the story that I'm telling myself is mama's just so fragile. We have to take over and we have to be there for her because we cannot stand to see her cry.
Wow, wow. Happens all the
I have
time, Polly.
and so like I'm not sure that I've ever been in a situation where someone has passed away and there hasn't been a hot mess at some point
Yeah.
because everybody usually the always and the nevers and everybody's and like all those big terms, right? But at this point, I think I would say like everybody is experiencing this trauma and grief because death in itself is trauma,
Mm,
right?
Mm,
So whether the person has disassociated and blocked it out and they're gonna have their walls up and be like, "I'm not dealing with this. Like, this is whatever. Like, I'm not this isn't affecting me." Yeah, it's affecting you. Yeah, it is. You're
mm,
putting a wall up. It's okay.
mm,
That's how you're surviving it. It's okay.
mm,
Recognize it.
mm.
But the key is everybody to sit down at the table and say, "The story that I'm telling myself, some
Mm,
form or fashion. This is what I'm
interesting.
thinking. This is the way I see this. This is what I'm hearing." That type of communication. One, the person who says it is gonna have to make themselves vulnerable to everybody else,
Yeah.
but there has
Like,
to be a
"You're
rule at the
thinking that?
table. There has to be a rule at the table where you can't question their narrative. You have to hear their narrative,
Interesting.
and then everybody can impact each other by their responses of respect
Love
and
that.
validating, and I hear that, and thank you for sharing. We can't come out and be like, "Oh, well, you're stupid. That's a idiotic way to be thinking." Like, come on.
Yeah,
But that happens. That
yeah.
happens because there's fear and anger, and how could you even think that kind of mentality, right?
Interesting. I love that because, yeah, there's definitely that push and pull with, older parents.
Mhm,
For me,
mhm,
there is. For others who I've
mhm,
talked with who have parents that are aging. There's their
mhm.
perception, and I'm sure that if we talk to the parents, it would be a totally different thing. And usually it's, "I got this handled. Why do they keep bugging me?"
Well, and, on the other side of that, the kids are like, "How in the world could they have this handled?" They just lost their significant other, right? Like, "How
Yeah.
could they have this handled? They need me to be here. They
Yeah.
need me to go to these appointments. They need me. I need to be there for them and show them that I care and that I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
them."
Yeah. No, I love it. So the solution to it is just sit down and toss them out with any judgment and just listen and learn.
Well, like, most of our answers in life were to hear, to listen,
Mm,
to be heard, to be
mhm,
seen.
mm.
Is that communication piece with respect, understanding, and honoring the other person and where they're coming from.
No, I love it. No, so good. So many cool things today, Holly, that you shared. So many cool ideas and thoughts. I love that you can have two emotions at the same time. Very cool.
Mhm.
I love that. I think you'll be very helpful to so many people going through this. And so thank you for joining
Yeah.
us. Thank you for your
Well,
time.
absolutely. Thanks for letting me be here. I've
Yeah.
enjoyed it a lot. Yeah, I hope
Thank you
people
so much.
are moved and are helped from it.
Thank you, Holly. Thanks for your time. Have a great day.
Thanks. You too. Thanks.